what if you have a company that ceased to exist before January 1, 2024? Does it have to report to FinCEN? Well, it's going to depend on how it ceased to exist. Now, generally, companies don't have to report their beneficial ownership information to FinCEN if they ceased to exist before January 1, 2024. So, what this means and what FinCEN is looking for is that they completely finished the process of formally dissolving and nothing is left. Now, a company that has ceased to exist before those reporting requirements went into effect, well, it's they just weren't in effect. They were not in existence during the applicable time. Now, something that's been coming up as an open question, which we didn't have good guidance on until July 2024. Well, what if that entity was administratively terminated? It wasn't formally terminated, but you just forgot to file some paperwork, and the state just went ahead and said, well, you're terminated until you have gotten your updated tax returns or some other form filed with the state. That is not going to be treated as a formal dissolution. What the guidance that we've received from FinCEN is going to say is that what you're going to do is actually still have an existing entity. And because that entity still exists, even though it was an administrative termination, you really haven't formally terminated. So if you're in a situation where your entity has been administratively terminated, you're still going to have to report your beneficial ownership information. Why are they thinking through? Why did they come to this decision? The thought and the way I'd think about this is if our smell test for FinCEN reporting, for the BOI reporting is, could a bad guy use this to hide what's out there? Well, potentially they could. Thinking right now, they could form an entity, have it administratively terminated, but it still owns things, still owns bank accounts, still owns property. That's an entity that may still exist out there and they can transfer things around. This is probably what FinCEN was thinking about. So if you want to avoid having to report an entity and you think it's terminated, well, you need to formally terminate it. File whatever required paperwork you need to with Secretary of State or the appropriate office in your state or jurisdiction to formally terminate it, file your final tax returns. You're still going to have to report the beneficial ownership information to FinCEN. So even though we've got a deadline of January 1, 2025 for existing entities, think about it this way. It existed in 2024. And because it had existed in 2024, well, you've got to go ahead, close it down formally, then go ahead and file your reports with FinCEN.